So it's possible to revise for the driving theory in just one day. I was in this position yesterday and I'm just going to talk you through how I did it. So for anybody who knows me or has been following my YouTube channel for a while, they'll know that I love procrastinating. That's kind of why it takes me so long to get any content out. And following this trend, that's kind of why I left my driving theory till the very last minute. So just for some context, I did my driving theory exam yesterday and I managed to pass it first time, which I was so gassed about. And in this video, I'm just going to be explaining how I did it. So just for some context, I had very little background knowledge in like driving or anything to do with that. So that's because my parents have never actually had a car, and I've probably sat in the front seat of a car like maybe 5 times. And I've never been interested in cars. Let me just talk you through the process. Right, so I think the first thing you need to do is you need to gauge how much background knowledge you have. And the best way to do that is to just do a mock paper. So the way that the driving theory is examined in the UK at the moment is you have 2 sections. So one of them is a multiple choice section, which has 50 questions. So this one has a pass mark of 43, which horrified me when I found this out 2 days before the exam. And then the second section is the hazard perception test. And so for this one, it kind of tests your ability to notice hazards and how fast your reaction time is to flag them up, basically. The faster you flag them up, the more points you'll get. And for this section, you need to get 44 out of a total possible of 75. So I think once you've done your first practice test in the morning, hopefully quite early, you can see how much you actually already know. So some of the questions might seem quite easy and they might seem like quite common sense. Some of the other questions will be a bit harder and will actually require some sort of learning. So I think if you are in a position where you're getting quite low on the practice tests, I would recommend actually doing some reading first, because it's really demoralizing doing practice tests and consistently getting like 20 or 30%. At least that's what I found. So what I did is I got this app called the DVSA Complete Toolkit. So I put it up here and I'm going to link it in the description. But basically this splits up all of these sections of the theory into 14 sections. And that's really good because it's a lot more bite-sized and it's way less overwhelming than trying to read like the highway code, which I tried and I really, really don't recommend. It's not that easy to read and parts of it feel really irrelevant, and I just found it kind of difficult. So anyway, with the app, it's quite easy because each section only takes about 20 or 30 minutes to do. So a section might have 4 or 7 different pages, and each page might just have like a small paragraph or like a full page of text. And you just read through each one and you kind of tick off to say you've done it. And from there, there'll be practice questions that you complete. And those are pretty handy because you get to actually practice what you've done and see where the gaps in your knowledge are. And then once you've completed those sections or gotten some awareness of the background, I think it's then most important to do as many practice tests as you possibly can, just because the questions really, really repeat. There's a finite number of questions, so much so that in my exam, I had probably seen like 90% of the questions before, and that definitely put my mind at ease. I would say having done so many questions is why I managed to get 50 out of 50 on the MCQs. There are so many websites which will give you free papers, and I've literally listed them all in the description. I really recommend them, but there is one thing to bear in mind, and that's that some of the questions that come up in some of the mock papers don't really seem that relevant. So there's this type called the show me, tell me question, where they'll ask about specific things in the car. So like putting a demister on or honking the horn or checking for things. And I don't really think those are that relevant to the driving theory test, but rather for the practical exam itself. So that's something to bear in mind. It really threw me off the night before, so don't worry about those. Do as many of these questions as you can. I think I did maybe 20 or 30 papers of 50 questions, and the questions start to repeat after a while, so you just get progressively faster and faster. I personally liked having like a piece of paper to just things down on, but I really don't think you should be making elaborate notes, just because this exam requires recognition rather than actually coming out with the answer yourself, just because it's a multiple choice question exam. So note things down and maybe screenshot things that you're really struggling with so you can review it like just before the exam. That's what I did. The thing is though, there'll be some sort of questions which are kind of tricky and will require some sort of knowledge. And I think for those, the best thing to do is actually to just revise those separately. So for me, these were like the different colours of like stud markings on the road, the different lines that you have on roads, the different signs, because there are so many. Oh, and roundabouts. I found roundabouts so confusing, but there are a whole bunch of free YouTube videos that explain all these things in like really condensed ways that just made sense to me. So I've listed all of these, but basically they just kind of talk you through how everything works, and that was really handy for me. Also, a lot of these videos and these websites are really visual, and for me, as more of a visual learner and somebody with very little awareness of cars or roads, for me it was really important being able to see how things looked, because I really couldn't imagine them. Like, you know, I couldn't even tell you which side of the road the hard shoulder was on or anything. Like, awareness, zero. A few other things that are really important to know about are stopping distances, speed limits, and like how weather affects those stopping distances. And like there are some really good tables for that you can just like check out. I think that is the main thing you can do with the MCQs though. The hazard perception test though is its own little beast. I recommend dedicating more time to it. I thought it was something I could wing, and I got to halfway through the test and I'd missed a hazard completely, and then like barely, like, and then almost missed one after it, and I was really scared. But I think doing as much practice on the hazard perception test as you can is really handy. So the app has like 34 different videos, which is really cool. And then there are websites which are really good as well. So I really like that. The thing is, make sure you do practice and you know you're getting feedback on it so you can know exactly when to be pressing. There was also a really handy video I found on the 3-click rule, which suggests how to be doing the clicks. So one when you first see the hazard before it's properly developed, a second one where you see it starting to develop, and then a third one a second later. And this third one is kind of a safety one, just in case you've clicked on your screen far too early and you've completely missed the points. So they talk through that really well, and I found that really helpful. But I think beyond that, it's doing mock full tests of the hazard perception. So I found it really difficult to stay focused for the entire 14 clips. Like, honestly, by maybe clip 8 or 9, I was really losing focus, and that's where I started to really trip up. So doing a full one without getting feedback is really good, because it helps you to just understand what the actual thing is going to be like and practice the skills you're going to need. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, and good luck to you if you have the driving theory test coming up sometime soon. I hope all the resources were useful, and I've linked them all in the description. But yeah, best of luck. See you guys next time.